what do you think is the cause of anxiety and depression? Can be a number of factors. There can be genetic predisposition to it. There can be certain types of genes that over a number of generations have become more pronounced because of inappropriate diets. We've seen that in like Pottinger's cats and a whole lot of other animal studies where we've seen certain types of anxiety disorders and depression and behavior problems in rats that a number of generations have had their diet altered. So we know it can happen. And so when somebody says, oh, just do a carnivore diet and that'll eliminate all your depression and anxiety and everything else, that's wrong. What a carnivore diet will do, a species appropriate diet, it will basically silence some of those genes and modulate some of the other genes to a level where it's not as severe. But in some cases, some people may still require some medication to manage it for a certain period of time, maybe a lifetime, maybe not. And if people within their family maintain a species appropriate diet over a number of generations, you can reverse the condition. And that was shown with Pottinger's cats. Certain cats, up to fifth generation could no longer, reproduce and had all sorts of abnormalities and behavior problems. So it wasn't only abnormalities, but also behavior problems. And then basically, if you stopped it at about the third generation, then started improving the nutrition of the subsequent generations, some of these genes got completely turned off or silenced. And so as a consequence, these people recovered completely, or their rats started behaving more like what would be expected from a rat. We can't do those experiments on humans because rats only live for about 2 odd years on average, which means you can do it over a decade on rats. You can't do the same experiment. And you could probably do it if you're like with cats, with Pottinger's cats. He could do it because why? Because he was committed. He committed a large part of his life to doing this research. Not many people out there are going to do that. They're not going to basically spend 5 generations on 5 generations of cats, which is a number of decades of research to basically prove a point. He was one of those exceptions to the rule when it comes to researchers that were willing to basically, apply the hypothesis in a very methodical way over a number of generations. We can't do that. We can't lock up humans and do experiments between twins over multiple generations and stuff like that to see what works and what doesn't. What we can go, as I said, I've been saying for ages, is look at the archaeological evidence. And what that shows is the collagen of bones shows that the isotopes of nitrogen-15 are very high, which basically tells us that these, both Homo sapiens and hominins, over a vast period of historical time, were basically super hypercarnivores for most of their existence. And that's all we can, I can say that is the best proof we've got. Why is it the best proof? Simple. It's because it's definitive. It's strong, empirical. Bones do not lie. You can't have bones from different regions of the world, from different periods of the world, exhibiting the same characteristics. It tells you something. And then it matches also the weather and the type of animals around, the megafauna and all that. So the reality is, it's a non-issue. But, how do you deal with these things? It's not an easy thing. Obviously, sleep is really important for these conditions. Things that are basically addictive substances like alcohol, tobacco, caffeine for certain people can be problematic if you've got these conditions. So you need to clean up your diet, really go much harder than the average person out there. Amber O'Hearn, she basically really went hard on some of these things and really was able to completely down-regulate the genes that are involved in basically her bipolar. And I don't think Amber is taking any medication for her past bipolar condition. So if you've got a species appropriate diet, less sugar will reduce anxiety. Better nutrition will improve all that. But the other thing that also helps increase your happy hormones is exercise. Physical movement is also important. It's not only diet. Physical movement can actually provide you a bit more euphoria, a bit more happiness, a bit more. It tends to also crush cortisol, so does salt. So these sort of things should be part of your diet, and you should be getting the results. You got a bit of a trial and error to see how much you can modulate it and how much you can basically either really reduce the dosage you require of a specific medication or eliminate it. I think the potential is for most people to eliminate when it comes to specific things like anxiety and depression. I think diet can more or less eliminate it if you've got a clean diet. It just means that a person who's actually activated some of those genes needs to turn them off, which means you need to be a bit more cleaner than the rest of us. No cheats, because cheats will cause you issues. I mean, Bart learns that when he basically does a few cheats. I can do cheats and it doesn't affect me mentally, but him, it does. And he knows it, but he still does it because he's got other stresses in his life and he finds it as a coping mechanism. But, I usually try and encourage him and all that because we're good friends, good mates. That's what mates do. And that's what we have to do amongst ourselves, trying to help each other, get a bit of information, send me an email. If you've tried something and it's sort of, what do you think? Should I try this? Try to work out some of the details. I don't mind, let me know. If I can help you, yep, definitely. I'll try and help you. If you've got a really bad sort of situation and you're really struggling, I would say look at things like light. I've changed my lights, and I can tell you my sleep quality has actually improved in the last couple of weeks since I've got rid of more blue light in my environment. It's made a difference to my sleep quality as well. And getting up in the morning, and I haven't had one single night that I've woken up in the middle of the night. And before, at least once a week, it would happen occasionally. Now it doesn't happen, which is good. So I'm getting better sleep quality. So they are doing the trick, So I'm getting better melatonin levels, which means it's keeping me asleep, and improving my health because it's, melatonin is a very potent, 100 times compared to many other antioxidants, as a potent repairer of mitochondria. You want to be healthy in old age. You want to basically have good, functioning of your brain, your tissue, and all that. You need good sleep. You need good melatonin to basically do all those repairs to your mitochondria, to repair the nanomotors that may have got damaged from some inappropriate foods, or some too much toxic blue light or whatever. So these sort of things you've got to look at as well, because they also affect mood, anxiety, depression, all these sort of things. But there are other things in our environment. There are family relationships, things about being more mindful, being, doing a bit of yoga, a bit of breathing exercises, relaxing, trying to relax, try to extricate yourself from difficult circumstances. Sometimes it's, because of your financial circumstance or stuff like that, you sometimes have to step back from all that and say, how can I reconfigure my life? And that's what I had to do years ago. And I, probably it's the reason I usually say to people, their life actually becomes less stressful because they become utilitarian. They say, do I need to get something? See, what I don't purchase, I no longer purchase things. I just basically, do I need something? Yes, I'll get it. Do I not need it? Is there a reason for it? No, I don't do it. So, I manage my life better. And that's what you sort of have to learn, to manage your life and all that. And then you'll have money aside, which you'll be able to invest in stocks and bonds and whatever else you want to get into, housing or whatever. But you'll have that capacity to do those sort of things. You won't have that capacity if you're in the quagmire, because finances can play a big role in depression, anxiety, and sometimes I find that the most honest thing to do is just sit down with, if you've got a partner, and basically just lay it all down, you know. And sometimes some people will walk away from things like that. That's a risk, I know. So you have to make that choice yourself. I can't tell you what to do. You're an adult, you got to take responsibility for yourself. But I've found in my life that certain people walked out on me, and that was the best thing they ever did to me, because they freed me up to find better people, and I did, and I'm happier, and I've got a better life. So, sometimes, yeah, life's not easy. It's got a lot of, things. So you have to really step back, take a bird's eye view. T2, you know what I mean? Bird's eye view, mate. And literally, consider best way of actually approaching life. Lay down your assets, your liabilities, the issues and all that. Put them on a piece of paper, big, large piece of paper, all these sort of things. It's easy to hazard that way. And sometimes it's also easier to manage some of those things. You don't have to do everything in one hit. You can do small little bits every day, every second day, every third day, every week, one task every week that I must do to improve my life. You do that, you'll be surprised by the end of the year how many things have changed in your life and are much better. You'll be shocked. But you have to have a plan. Without a plan, you're just like a aimless, it's like a boat without a rudder. You're going nowhere. So, yeah, I hope that sort of, we went a bit beyond the nutritional side, but, when it comes to these sort of issues, it is beyond the nutritional side. It's a human is not just nutrition. They are the psychology, their relationships with people, their financial status, all sorts of things are interplaying. And so people need to consider all these things and literally lay their cards out, and look at, where they are and where they would like to be. And if they're not sure where they would like to be, at least identify the issues and try and mitigate some of them as much as possible. It may not be a perfect outcome a year forward, but it will be probably better than where they are right now. So